Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto hates Femme Sasuke. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Days had passed. Sasuke now seemed fully recovered from his mental injuries. Sakura told him that Sasuke didn't mean what he said back there at the hospital. "I hate you." That was a lie. Unlike some people, Naruto had no doubt in his mind that Sasuke truly did hate him. Naruto cried himself to sleep that night. Something he hadn't done since he vowed to the people of Konoha that he would become the Hokage one day. He remembered the first time he met Sasuke. The silly, accidental kiss. Their first fight with the Demon Brothers and Sasuke's amazing display of skill. The day when they learned to run up trees using chakra, how they exchanged triumphant grins when they reached the top. The day when he thought Sasuke had died and how enraged he had been. He remembered all the good times they had as well as the bad times. And he remembered how things would never be the same between them ever again. Naruto became increasingly depressed. He no longer had the will to smile and put up the mask as he always did. He could no longer ignore the hateful glares he received as he walked down the streets of Konoha. These were the people that he would be protecting when he became Hokage. People that despised every inch of his being. Could he live with that? Was he willing to live with that? Naruto-kun. Naruto turned around to see Hinata smiling shyly at him. For Hinata, Naruto forced a smile onto his face. "Hi Hinata-chan, how are you doing?" "I am doing fine." "That's good," he told. He saw a blush creep up onto her cheeks as he said that. Naruto's forced smile gradually became genuine. Dear, sweet Hinata. The girl who always stared at him when he thought he wasn't looking and gave him shy little smiles whenever he saw her. Perhaps the only person among genins who didn't blow off his morning greetings. The only person among his peers who saw him for who he really was before he became a genin. Naruto took a step closer to Hinata, still smiling. "Hinata, yes? I like you." Hinata blinked in surprise. "What? You're sweet, gentle, and have a lot of strength in here," Naruto said, putting his hand on his heart. The blush on Hinata's cheeks deepened. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," she said, smiling. "If something happens to me, if I went away, would you remember me?" "Of course. I would never forget you, Naruto-kun." She hesitated. "You are a very precious person to me, Naruto-kun." By now, her face was beet red. "I can't believe I just said that." Naruto's smile widened. He closed his eyes. "Thank you." Naruto began walking away. "Where are you going?" Hinata asked. Naruto looked over his shoulder, still smiling. "For some ramen." "Oh, okay." He paused for a second before he spoke again. "Hinata-chan, can you promise me something?" "Oh, of course, Naruto-kun. Anything." Hinata immediately replied. "If anything happens to me, promise me that you'll find happiness." What? Are you leaving?" Hinata asked fearfully. Naruto shook his head. "I just have a feeling that something's going to happen soon. Things could never be the same after all. Not after all that had happened. Something was going to change, whether you liked it or not. Do you promise?" He held out his pinky. Why yes. I promise you, Naruto-kun." She intertwined her pinky with his and the promise was made. Grinning, Naruto added, "And if nothing does happen, you could just forget it, haha." "I won't forget," Hinata said with complete seriousness. Naruto looked at Hinata in surprise before regaining his grin. "Good." Naruto stood atop a cliff within Konoha looking at the moon. He remembered his words to Hinata. He wasn't sure what urged him to say all that, but he felt it was right at the time. He wasn't running away though. No, he would never run away. He would pull through it and endure like he always did. Because he had to. Suddenly, Naruto pulled out a kunai, jumped backwards, and got into a defensive stance. "I know you're there. Come out." "Oh, I see you've gotten better since I last saw you." A man in a dark cloak stepped out of the shadows. A man with red eyes. Naruto instantly froze, his hand holding the kunai shaking. "Why you?" Itachi stared at Naruto with his cold gaze. "It is time. You are coming with me." Naruto gritted his teeth and forced his muscles to relax. He would not freeze up like he did. He would fight. No. Throwing several kunai in Itachi's direction while running away, Naruto leapt off the cliff and headed as fast as he could toward the village. "I gotta get help." There was a difference between running away and a tactical retreat. This was the latter. Naruto was headstrong but not insane. Itachi was an S-class criminal, who some say was even stronger than Orochimaru. A cold shiver rushed through his spine as memories of what the Sharingan user did to Sasuke and Kakashi while barely lifting a finger. "You can't run," he heard from behind him. Maybe he couldn't run far, but thankfully he wasn't that far from the Konoha markets. Once he saw a few people standing out on the streets, he screamed, Help! Help me oof!" Naruto was cut off as Itachi slammed foot into his back, sending him sprawling into the ground. They turned to Naruto with an annoyed expression at first, but that quickly turned to fear as they saw who was chasing him. They backed up in fear. Isn't that? It's Uchiha Itachi, the betrayer who killed his whole clan and abandoned Konoha. Grabbing Naruto roughly by the neck, Itachi addressed his witnesses, "I am taking him with me. If anyone tries to stop me, I will kill you." As Naruto struggled to get free of Itachi's vice-like grasp, he looked at the people with a pleading expression and said, Please. Someone get help." Not a single person moved. In fact, people in the surrounding houses actually closed their windows. Tears began falling from his eyes. Please, somebody, anybody." But no one said or did anything. They simply looked away uncomfortably. Itachi. A flurry of kunai and shuriken flew at the kidnapper, but he took a few hops backwards and turned to his attacker calmly. Sasuke. Sasuke glared at the man with his Sharingan berserk eyes. "I will kill you," Itachi scoffed, looking unamused. "Please, you are still far too weak for me to even acknowledge your presence. I heard how you became Orochimaru's puppet and how this." He roughly held Naruto up in the air, who was still struggling. "Pathetic boy had to save you. How sad." Sasuke flinched. Shut up. I'll kill you and get vengeance for the clan and our parents." Itachi held Naruto in front of him, placing a kunai against the boy's neck. Naruto quickly stopped struggling as the kunai was pressed against his skin hard enough to draw blood. "If you attack me, I will kill this boy." Naruto looked at Sasuke, hope in his eyes. Sasuke. Help. Words could not reach the Avenger. Sasuke charged forward, kunai in hand, and screamed, "Die!" The cold, sharp metal slid across Naruto's neck and a spray of blood gushed out. Itachi pushed Naruto to the ground. The darkness slowly engulfed Naruto. As he fell, with tears rolling down his cheeks, he looked at Sasuke with his wide, innocent eyes. The look of betrayal was clearly written on his face. Why? Sasuke could only see one thing in his tunnel vision, unfortunately. The only thing he'd seen for the past 6 years. Itachi. And so, Sasuke, his face soaked in Naruto's own blood, ran past the boy without blinking an eye and thrust his weapon at Itachi. Itachi parried with a kunai of his own. As he looked at Sasuke's enraged face, his eyes seemed sad. He closed his eyes, then opened them again. "You proved me wrong, Sasuke. You have grown stronger, good. But it is not your time yet." With that, Itachi put a large amount of chakra into his other hand and shoved his fist into Sasuke's stomach. Sasuke clutched his stomach as he doubled over, his consciousness fading. I will kill you, one day." Itachi stared emotionlessly at Sasuke. "One day. You will one day, Sasuke. Until next time, little brother." Naruto couldn't see what happened next. For Naruto had died. What is this darkness? It's warm. No one to hate me here. I see a light. It's cold. I don't like it. I turn my back on the light and embrace the darkness. It feels good. Naruto awoke. No, he had not died that day. After finishing with his brother, Itachi had escaped with Naruto's body. He performed a short jutsu on Naruto's body and began applying a medicine to the cut. The dagger Itachi had slit Naruto's throat with was a special dagger that had been dipped in a special healing ointment. Although Naruto's body was alive, part of him truly did die that day. It was a piece of him that he would never get back. Awake at last, I see. He wasn't alone? Naruto, who was flat on his back, did not bother trying to move. He only moved his eyes to the source of the voice, Itachi. He remembered. "What are you going to do with me?" Naruto murmured. "I will take you to Akatsuki's base and then we will turn you into a finely honed weapon. We will make use of your powers, unlike Konoha." My dream is to become Hokage and make everyone acknowledge me. Take me back." Naruto protested weakly. Itachi raised an eyebrow. "You still want to go back there? Even after all that has happened? You would go back to a place where everyone despises you and wishes you dead? Where not a single person lifted a finger when you were in need of help? Just don't want to run away. Itachi looked Naruto in surprise. He had to admit, he was impressed by the amount of willpower Naruto displayed. Interesting. Unfortunately, I cannot comply with your request. You will be better off in Akatsuki anyways. We will train you to make use of Kyuubi and make you more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Help. Help me. Tears began falling from his eyes. Please. Somebody. Anybody. But no one said or did anything. They simply looked away uncomfortably. I don't need your help. I don't need anyone. Naruto murmured. A small, bitter smile surfaced onto Itachi's features. That attitude will make you strong. Don't worry, one day you will return to Konoha. When that day comes you will be more powerful than the Hokage himself. Then no one will be able to look away. Naruto said nothing. Silently though, he clenched his fist and repeated Itachi's words to himself. Tsunade looked down at a file on her desk with sadness in her eyes. She gently pressed her fingers against the picture before her. The file read, Uzumaki Naruto. Age: 13. Deceased. After Itachi had killed Naruto and taken his body, Tsunade sent out numerous of Enbu squads out in a furious attempt to locate Itachi but to no avail. Eventually the 5th Hokage was forced to label the boy as a Kia, killed in action. No matter how much she didn't want to. Sasuke himself said he had seen Naruto die and there was no doubt that Itachi had taken the boy's body because he was a Jinchuriki. As tragic as it was, Konoha had moved on rather quickly after Naruto's death. After all, ninjas died every day. What was one more genin? The only difference was that this genin just happened to be the vessel of the demon Kyuubi. As far as the Hidden Leaf Village was concerned, good riddance. Only a few select were actually affected by the absence of the hyperactive ninja and those were mainly the rookie genins. Shikamaru, Neji, Kiba, and Choji had all gained a new respect for Naruto when they went to get Sasuke back. They had fought and bled together. Hinata was also deeply hurt by Naruto's disappearance. She remembered their conversation they had earlier that day. For a whole week she cooped herself up in her room, not speaking to anyone. But then she remembered her promise to Naruto. For him, Hinata would be strong. Of all the genins though, the ones that were most affected were of course Naruto's own team. Sakura still remembered and deeply regretted her words and attitude toward Naruto the past week. No more would she hear the constant calls of Sakura-chan. And now she could never tell Naruto how truly sorry she was. Only now could she admit that she truly missed and cared for the loud ninja. As for Sasuke, Itachi held Naruto in front of him, placing the kunai against the boy's neck. Naruto quickly stopped struggling as the kunai was pressed against his skin hard enough to draw blood. If you attack me I will kill this boy. Naruto looked at Sasuke, hope in his eyes. Sasuke. Help. Sasuke twisted in his sleep. The cold, sharp metal slid across Naruto's neck and a spray of blood gushed out. Itachi pushed Naruto to the ground. The darkness slowly engulfed Naruto. As he fell, with tears rolling down his cheeks, he looked at Sasuke with his wide, innocent eyes. The look of betrayal was clearly written on his face. Why? Sasuke could almost hear coming from the boy, his dead eyes piercing through his Sharingan. Sasuke awoke suddenly in a cold sweat. That dream again, he started, his voice shaking. No, not a dream, a nightmare. And Naruto. Sasuke stifled a cry. I'm sorry. Wiping away his dry, salty tears, Sasuke tried to go back to sleep. Itachi and Naruto arrived at Akatsuki's base rather quickly. During that time, Naruto had once tried to escape from Itachi once and failed miserably. That was his only attempt. Why bother? He began to ask himself. The boy was in an even deeper depression than he was before he left Konoha. A part of him died that day and would never return. No matter how hard he tried, Naruto simply could not put on his fake smile no more. Akatsuki, located in the depths of a complex cavern, was a mysterious and morbid place, similar to the leaders of the organization. Itachi and Kisame lead Naruto through various corridors before entering a large chamber. In the center of the room was a gigantic statue whose hands protruded out from the ground. It had 10 closed eyes and on each of its fingers were figures shrouded in shadows. Naruto looked at the statue and a shiver ran up his spine. He couldn't shake this ominous feeling the statue gave him. So this is the vessel of Kyuubi, one of the shadows asked. Yes, Itachi answered. Another shadow nodded his head. I can feel an enormous power within the boy. One shadow seemed to chuckle. Konoha were fools. To have the strength of a demon in the palm of their hands and yet all they do is shun and ignore it. How foolish. Suna is no better though. Although they attempted to control the boy, they failed miserably. The boy is a loose cannon. I am certain that he would have slaughtered the entire village one day had he not been given proper training. Most likely, Itachi agreed. We will not make that mistake however. Kisame, where is the other Jinchuriki that you captured? In the holding cells, Kisame stated. I have decided that you and Itachi handle both the boys for their initial training unless you two have any objections? No, Itachi replied. Kisame, however, frowned. Would not Itachi-san and my skills be put to better use in capturing the remaining Jinchuriki? Clearly, we have had the most success out of everyone. Don't get cocky you arrogant shark, one of the shadows snapped. Kakuzu and I have been busy waging war for the Tsuchikage. If you want to use that excuse, be my guest, Kisame replied coolly. Why you? I would be willing to train the Jinchuriki, interjected another shadow. The Kyuubi vessel intrigues after what he did to Sasuke-kun. You? Ha! Scoffed a shadow. Don't be ridiculous Orochimaru. You would be more likely to take over their bodies than train them even since the Hokage took your arms. I appreciate the offer Orochimaru but no, the main shadow said. I believe that Itachi and Kisame will be the best for the job, especially with Itachi's knowledge of seals. The rest of you will continue hunting down the others and increasing our rapport with the other villages. HMPH. Very well, Kisame relented. I will aid Itachi in training the Jinchuriki. Good. Start the training immediately. Kisame and Itachi ushered Naruto outside and took him to a prison cell. They shoved him inside. Wait here, Itachi said. The two Akatsuki's members left. That's when Naruto saw him. The boy who had nearly killed Lee and Sakura and who had aided in the raid against Konoha. Gaara. The Jinchuriki of the tailed beast Shukaku. He was sitting by himself, huddled in the corner with his knees against his chest. As Naruto walked into the room, Gaara's head snapped up and locked eyes with Naruto. They stared at each other for a long moment, neither saying a word. You, Gaara said, devoid of any emotion. Gaara. Naruto wasn't sure of what to say. Gaara was a bitter enemy, one who had not hesitated in attempting to kill his friends and had almost completely incapacitated one. On the other hand, Gaara was also just like him and in the same situation. Thankfully, Itachi and Kisame returned, breaking the pregnant silence. I trust you have met this boy before. He will be training with you. Now follow us. Gaara and Naruto silently followed Itachi and Kisame as the men lead them to a training room. Naruto couldn't help but keep sneaking glances at the other boy. What did he think of all this? Would he cooperate? Or would he try to escape back to Sanagakure? What are you looking at? Gaara spoke suddenly with a brisk coldness, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. Naruto frowned, his brows furrowing. I was just wondering what you thought about this whole situation. Naruto lowered his voice and whispered, are you going to try to escape back to Sanagakure? Gaara didn't speak for a moment. He turned away and as he spoke, his voice became distant. Why bother? I could care less about those weaklings. I will use this Akatsuki to make me stronger and then I will kill them all. Naruto nervously glanced at the pair of Akatsuki ahead of them. Shush, whisper. I think they can hear you. I don't care. Out in front, Kisame chuckled. Naruto wondered about what Gaara had said though. Why should he care? They certainly didn't. Naruto looked at Sasuke, hope in his eyes. Sasuke. Help. He quickly shook his head violently at the painful memory still fresh in his mind. Who cares about that bastard anyways? I don't need his help. I don't need anyone. Gaara watched Naruto's troubled eyes with an unreadable expression. Once they arrived the training area, Itachi asked the boys to state their weaknesses. Naruto pondered on the question for a bit. The old Naruto probably would have said that he didn't have any. What was his weakness? I don't know that many jutsus I guess. I have no weaknesses, Gaara stated. Liar. Naruto immediately said. Your weakness is that you're physically slow and your taijutsu sucks. Gaara gazed coldly at Naruto. You think you know me? Naruto returned the gaze with a glare. I've beaten you before, I can beat you again. Quiet down you punks, Kisame said, swinging his bandaged sword in between them. Naruto complied and, surprisingly, so did Gaara, though a faint HMPH could be heard. For the beginning training, we will devote half to working on your weaknesses. The other half will be used to train the tailed beasts within you, Itachi said. The latter surprised both of them. How are you going to do that? Naruto asked. You'll see, he simply said. The training had begun. Kisame spent most of the time viciously beating into Gaara, breaking through his sand armor, while giving him pointers about how to dodge and other ways of defending besides his sand. Throughout this, it was visibly clear that Gaara was having an extremely difficult time restraining himself and Shukaku. Come on Jinchuriki, you can do better than that, Kisame berated. Just wait until I can control Shukaku, Gaara thought angrily. Then they can all die. While this was going on, Itachi spent the time trying to teach Naruto a few defensive elemental jutsus since he knew none. They weren't having much success. Pathetic. That looked nothing like I showed you, Itachi said harshly. Naruto glared at his new teacher. Well, unlike you, I don't have a stupid Sharingan to help me. Itachi stared at Naruto for a moment with a cold, calculated expression. Then he said, I'm sure my little brother would have picked it up in no time. Naruto instantly clenched his fist and attained a serious expression on his face. Narrowing his eyes, he concentrated and performed the seals. Thrusting his palms onto the ground, he shouted, Doden! Doryuheki! Itachi looked at the result. Horrible attempt. Naruto grimaced as he looked at what he had done. A very small stone wall had formed that barely went up to his knee. Kisame looked over and laughed. Ha ha, what are you doing, Itachi-san? Teaching him how to trip someone? Itachi ignored Kisame. Let us move on to training your tailed beasts. He walked over to Gaara. Release your sand armor and lift up your shirt. Gaara looked like he going to refuse but did. The sand oozed off and onto the ground and he pulled up his shirt. As soon as the sand was off, Itachi formed several seals then pulled back his palm. With his fingertips burning of blue flames, he smashed his open palm into Gaara's stomach. Gaara flew backwards onto the ground and clutched his stomach in pain. Hey, what did he do that for? Naruto shouted angrily. He tried to approach Itachi but Kisame held him back with a hand. You'll see, Kisame stated. Gaara gradually got up off the ground on one knee and gave Itachi a bloodthirsty glare. Why you? Ribbons of sand began swirling about the boy. I'll kill you. Is it not easier to control the sand now? Itachi asked, not in the least intimidated by Gaara. Gaara blinked. He held up his hand and saw the sand flowing around his arm freely. It was easier. True, he did have control of the sand before but now he could do it effortlessly. He could probably perform the Sabaku Q with just a single thought now. What did you do? I performed a seal on you. It allows Shukaku's chakra to freely combine with your own, Itachi explained. It took me a very long time to find and learn that seal. It is one of the reasons I am the one supervising your training. Gaara looked at himself, shocked. However, you will need to speak to Shukaku. Speak to Shukaku? Itachi walked over to Gaara. Stare into my eyes. Gaara complied. Itachi's Sharingan morphed into that of the Mangekyo Sharingan and soon Gaara was hypnotized to sleep. Naruto got into a defensive stance. What did you do to him? He is in a dream state where he should be talking to his tailed beast. Now for you. Lift up your shirt. Naruto did so and Itachi did the same thing to Naruto that he did to Gaara. Ow. Now you need to speak with Kyuubi, Naruto stated. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto smartly uttered, Huh? How am I supposed to do that? Look into my eyes. Naruto did so, frightened at first. It wasn't long though before he became memorized by the Mangekyo Sharingan and slipped into a deep sleep. Naruto opened his eyes and looked around. Where? Wait. He whipped around and saw a gigantic gate behind him. Here again. Naruto gulped as he began to sweat. The boy never enjoyed confrontations with his inner beast. Who would? I guess I better go in. Naruto walked up to gate, grabbed the bars, Kyuubi. The gate moaned and gradually creaked open. At first, the only thing he saw on the other side was a pitch-black darkness, but Naruto knew better. It only took a moment for the tailed beast spiritual form of Kyuubi to appear, his chakra whipping all about. The enormous eyes peered at Naruto as if burning a hole straight through his chest. What do you want, boy? It growled. Naruto felt flustered. What the hell was he supposed to say? Itachi never enlightened him on that part. Eventually Kyuubi became impatient. Well, are you going to just stand there, stuttering like a fool? Or are you going to speak up? At that, Naruto glared angrily at the beast. Shut up. This is your damn fault, you know. It's because of you that everyone hates and despises me. And? Naruto blinked, surprised at Kyuubi's reply. Do you think I like this any more than you? Being stuck inside a pitiful weakling human? What? I'm not pitiful or weak. Naruto shouted back. Oh, showing some backbone for once, are you? Even after letting those pathetic humans step all over you all this time? Kyuubi seemed to chuckle at the frustrated look the boy was displaying. Then speak up and tell me what you want, little man. The boy was silent for a moment. Appearing to make a decision, Naruto clenched his fist and yelled at the tailed beast, "Give me your power." The fox demon laughed yet again. Why should I? As if you don't use enough of it already. What are you going to do with my power? I'll force everyone to acknowledge me. I'll show them all. I'll say to everyone, this is me. Look at how strong I am. Acknowledge my strength, and then they won't ever be able to look away from me ever again. Naruto cried out. All the years of pent-up anger and depression that had been hidden deep within the boy finally seemed to be pouring out. Even if they look at you with fear and hatred in their eyes? Naruto chuckled with a strange tinge of darkness. Since when have they not? He asked. I don't care anymore. Whether they like it or not, I'll make them respect my strength even if it is out of fear. Oh? And if my power drives you so berserk that you want to massacre the place you call home? What will you do then? Home. Naruto thought about all the people in Konoha and their glares of hatred. He thought about his former crush, Sakura. He thought about how no one cared at all when his life was in danger. He thought of Sasuke. You don't understand. I already do, Naruto snarled. At that, Kyuubi grinned ferociously, displaying his bloodthirsty canines. Then we want the same thing. Very well then. My power is yours to use from this day on. You are Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha no more. You may know my true name now. It is, Kurama. 2 months had passed since Gaara and Naruto's training had begun. We're going on a mission, Itachi stated suddenly. Naruto pondered, raising an eyebrow. We are to sneak into Iwagakure located between the Land of Earth and Land of Wind, Itachi began explaining. Kisame, Gaara, and Naruto gathered around him. Itachi held up a roughly drawn map of the village that had various colored dots on it. The target is here, in this mansion. His name is Kurosaga Rafa, right hand of a powerful crime lord. We are to assassinate him and kill anyone who spots us. Gaara and Kisame took all this in, accepting it, but Naruto appeared a bit anxious. Kill? We have to kill them? Yes, Naruto. That is what we have been contracted to do, Itachi stated. Normally, Akatsuki did not do simple jobs such as this, but this was more of a test for their new disciples. It was designed to test their ability to do battle effectively and efficiently without any qualms or objections. This was very important for a ninja and the type of weapons Akatsuki wanted to turn the boys into. Kisame and I will take care of Kurosaga. Gaara, you will head through the front and make a distraction. They should not have any high-class ninja employed, so I trust it will be nothing you cannot handle. Gaara nodded. He knew what making a distraction was and had no problems with that. Itachi turned to Naruto, who still looked uneasy. You will hold the entrance to the mansion from outside and make sure no one else enters, as they may call for reinforcements. Do you understand, Naruto? Why yeah, I got it, Naruto said, trying to steady his voice. This would be his first assassination mission ever. Let's go. It didn't take them long to journey into the country where Iwagakure was located. They were now only a couple days outside of the hidden village. Kisame and Itachi were huddled around a small campfire, discussing something. Gaara and Naruto were currently on lookout. Gaara was looking stoic as ever as he stared out into the rocky cliffs. Naruto was beside and appeared to be in deep thought. Can I really kill when the time comes? He wondered to himself. He thought about Konoha. The rage and anger immediately built up within him. Then Naruto thought of Hinata and Iruka. He couldn't bring himself to hurt them. He thought of Sakura. Even though Naruto was deeply hurt by her words and actions, could he really bring himself to kill her if he was face to face with her? And if he couldn't kill people that hated and abused him, how could Naruto possibly bring himself to take the life of a complete stranger who had done nothing to him? He didn't know. The 4 ninjas of Akatsuki watched the mansion from afar, hidden in the darkness of night amongst the jagged cliffs surrounding rock. Itachi glanced over at Naruto and Gaara, gave them a few hand signals, and headed off toward the back of the mansion with Kisame. Gaara and Naruto nodded, acknowledging the signals. A few minutes passed before Gaara started to move out, leaving Naruto by himself. To say that Naruto was nervous was understatement. He was extremely anxious. Not only was this his first mission in months, it was also his first killing mission as well his first mission outside of Konoha. What if something went wrong? Or what if the guy had a family? Would they have to die too? Itachi assured him that the man had no family, but what if he was wrong? Naruto shook his head. No use worrying about that now. Focusing his attention, he studied Gaara. The front of the mansion was guarded only by 2 men, but who knew what was on the other side of that door? Gaara calmly walked up to the door, his arms crossed in front of his chest, and eyed the 2 men. The guards seemed to be asking what Gaara was doing, but he didn't reply. They looked at each other, becoming alarmed, and began approaching Gaara. One of them looked like he was about to grab him, but the guard was abruptly thrown off his feet as a huge fist of sand pummeled into his chest. The man tumbled into his fellow guard and they flew even further, crashing through the wooden door entrance. Naruto could not see what happened next as Gaara was now inside the mansion. By the looks of it, it appeared the boy would have no problems handling himself, which was as suspected. Now all Naruto had to do was watch Gaara's back. Please no one come, please no one come. Naruto chanted to himself. 1 minute passed, though it seemed like an eternity for Naruto. He sighed, whispering to himself, I hope they finish up soon. Naruto whipped his eyes toward the road as the sound of footsteps reached his sensitive ears. It wasn't long before 5 men entered his view, heading towards the mansion. Naruto held up a kunai. What should I do? I don't want to kill them. But Itachi said if they see us, we have to. Wait. That's it. Forming a few seals, Naruto whispered, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. What appeared beside Naruto were not several identical clones, however. Instead, he created several figures that took the form of an Anbu member. Quickly wrapping a genjutsu around himself as well, Naruto and his clones charged into the unsuspecting men. All the men seemed to normal guards, so they weren't much of a much for Naruto and his clones. Who are you? The guard managed to get out just before Naruto socked him in the stomach and followed up with an uppercut to his chin. The man flew back onto the ground, unconscious. There, Naruto said, breathing a sigh of relief. He didn't have to kill anyone yet. After making his clones vanish, he decided to check in on Gaara and headed into the mansion. Oddly, he didn't see the 2 guards Gaara had initially confronted. The only thing that lay in the long beginning hallway was a trail of blood leading into another room. Filled with dread, Naruto followed the trail of blood to the doors and opened them. What he saw in the next room made him sick to his stomach. Bloody, gutted bodies were scattered everywhere throughout the room. The stench of the blood was almost overwhelming for Naruto. In the middle of all the carnage, he saw Gaara with a crazed look on his face, and above was a man encased in hand of sand. Naruto recognized the move. Gaara, stop. The bloodthirsty eyes snapped to Naruto, piercing through him. Naruto flinched, but didn't back down. Don't do it. The eyes became angered. Stay out of my way, he growled. This is our job. But you don't have to kill them like that. Gaara scoffed. What does it matter in the end? A dead body is a dead body. Please, you don't have to listen to your demon anymore. Slightly surprised at the statement, Gaara's grip loosened slightly, allowing the man to drop from the sand and onto the floor, unconscious. Kill him, kill them, kill them, kill them all. Shukaku's voice raged inside Gaara's mind. Gaara shook his head furiously, moaning, and put a hand to his temple. The moment he acquired the killer intent, the tailed beast's cries barraged him in full force. He looked at Naruto, glaring. What would you know? You know nothing of the pain I feel. I heard about the seal you have and it is nothing like mine. I have to fight for control with Shukaku. Every waking minute is an endless battle. Gaara's eyes became unfocused and shaky. You have no idea. This is the only way that I can satisfy his hunger. The fool didn't understand. No one did. That is why he would be alone, always. No, you can keep fighting. Naruto shouted at him. If you give in to his hunger, then you've already lost the fight. It's not that easy. Kill him now. Gaara cried out in pain, falling to his knees. Gaara, Shut up, Gaara shouted furiously. He thrust his hand at Naruto. A wave of sand rushed at a wide-eyed Naruto. Having no way out, Naruto shut his eyes and braced himself with arms out in front. He waited for the blow to come, but it never did. Slowly, he opened his eyes to see that the sand had not attacked him. Make sure your targets are dead next time, Gaara stated icily. Surprised, Naruto looked behind and saw the sand wrapped around one of the guards he had thought he had defeated outside. Gaara stared at the man in his grasp, peering into his prey's fearful eyes. Gaara kept staring, waiting to feel something with the man's life in his palm, but it never came. I silenced Shukaku? He thought to himself, amazed. He didn't know whether it was Naruto's encouraging words or Itachi's new seal, but Gaara had finally managed to defeat his inner demon for self-control. At least for now, but a victory was a victory. Coming out of his deep thoughts, he gazed at his victim. I could kill this man right now with the Sabaku Kyu. Gaara. Naruto managed. I thought I could get away without killing anyone, but if Gaara hadn't have saved me, I might have been dead by now. The boy looked at the man within the sand's grasp, whose eyes looked like that of a rabid dog about to be put down. And now, because of me, this man is going to be tortured to death by the Sabaku. Naruto turned his eyes away, unable to look at the result of his actions. This is all my fault. Shoshin. Huh? Naruto gaped. Instead of seeing a man implode within the hand of sand, he only saw the man's eyes go blank for a second before his head dropped limp. What did you do? I used the sand to force an extreme amount of pressure onto his heart, stopping it from functioning. It is an instant death, Gaara stated. A small smile formed on Naruto's lips. Gaara, he started, but was cut off. Next time I won't clean up your mess, weakling, the boy of sand said coldly. Naruto flinched visibly. Sorry. Gaara shoved past Naruto, throwing the boy off balance, and walked out of the mansion. Naruto. Naruto turned to see Itachi behind him with his usual expressionless facade. You did not kill the guards. It was a statement, not a question. No. Naruto began, wincing at Itachi's tone. I thought I could beat them without. Itachi cut in. You were not ordered to think. You were told to kill anyone who tries to enter the building. Naruto protested, but you said only to kill people that see us, so I just used a genjutsu and… Do you think that makes any difference? Itachi asked coldly. I saw what happened. What would you have done had Gaara not been there? The distraught ninja didn't reply because he knew where Itachi going and knew he was right. Naruto. Tell me this, Naruto. What are you? Tell me what you are. What have you been training to become? A ninja? Naruto started slowly, not seeing what Itachi was getting at. Itachi nodded. That's right. A ninja. What is Konoha, Naruto? It's a village of ninjas? Naruto still didn't see where he was going but continued to answer the questions anyways. Right. Konoha is a hidden village of ninja. You have been training since the age of 6 to become a ninja, to become good at what you do, Itachi explained. Do not disguise what a ninja is. We are elite bodyguards, spies, and assassins. We are killers, murderers, call it whatever you want, but we are the hand of death. You've been trained since you were a child to learn how to become a good killer. Do you understand that? Realization gradually lit up in Naruto's eyes as Itachi's words struck a chord. He was right. Every single Junin, all the Chunins, all the Genins, all the children in the academy, they were all trained killers. Everything that Naruto learned at the academy was how to be stealthy and how to decapitate opponents quickly and efficiently. The very first thing children learned in the academy was how to throw a kunai, a sharp metal weapon created to pierce through human flesh. Why didn't he realize it sooner? Even if he had not been kidnapped by Akatsuki, he would have inevitably been given a mission to kill from Konoha. Think about that. Itachi walked past Naruto and through the exit. Ninjas are killers. On the way back to Akatsuki's home base, Naruto and Gaara were once again on watch. Neither had spoken to each other since the mission. Naruto cast a quick glance toward his companion. After a moment's hesitation, he spoke up. Hey, Gaara, what? Do you ever miss Suna? No, came the immediate answer. But what about your brother and sister? Don't you miss them, even just a little? Naruto asked. Gaara said nothing. Naruto sighed. Looking away from Gaara, he turned to the scenery. I don't know what I'm getting at. Sometimes I don't know if this is the right choice. For a long time no one said anything. Gaara glanced at Naruto. The boy was still thinking to himself, his eyes clearly displaying a struggle. He has changed so much. Gaara thought. The boy before Gaara seemed merely a shell of his former overconfident self. During the 2 months of training with Naruto, he realized that this Naruto was nothing like the ninja who had made Gaara realize that he didn't have to be alone and that he had a choice. This is my way of the ninja. It was this memory that made Gaara speak up contrary to his normal judgment. I don't know what has happened to you. Gaara began, catching Naruto's attention, but I'm disappointed in what you have become. You disappoint me. What? Naruto said, surprised. Gaara stared into Naruto's eyes coldly, unblinking. The ninja I knew during the Chunin exams, the person who shamelessly defeated me to defend the life of his comrades, was not one to doubt his own decisions. You always had full confidence in the actions you took and you never looked back. You were one who looked forward. Always. Before Naruto could respond, Gaara took off. Never looked back, huh? Naruto whispered to himself. Naruto's first kill had been nothing special. The man had been a former Anbu that was working as a mercenary. He had been guarding their target, which was unfortunate for him. Naruto killed him with a well-placed kunai into his heart. He died near instantly. His first kill. There were no extraordinary emotions that he felt when the deed had finally been done. There was no sadness in his heart for killing the stranger, nor was there a feeling of enjoyment, something that he had at first feared would happen. He simply didn't feel anything. He was just getting the job done. Although this had been his first kill, this had not been the first time he had seen a dead body, not by far. What should I be feeling? Naruto wondered to himself, confused. Shouldn't I be feeling sad that I have just taken the life of another human being? But, he's a mercenary. He accepted the dangers of his job. He would have died eventually. No one lives forever. What difference does it make that I was the one that killed him? If I hadn't done it, some other ninja would have. Naruto held up his blood-soaked kunai and stared at it intently. Gripping the handle tightly, he murmured to himself, this is the life that I have chosen. The whispered statement marked the end of Naruto's childhood innocence and the beginning of a new path. 3 years passed since that time. The day was bright and sunny with a clear blue sky over Konoha. 2 young men were slowly walking up to the gates of the hidden village. The men were both garbed in light black cloaks that was red on the inside. The collars of the cloaks were open, revealing masks that resembled the hunter nin masks. At the forehead of the masks a symbol of a crescent moon was etched. Both masks were identical except for 2 distinctions. One mask had 3 long whisker-type markings on both sides of the cheeks and the other mask had the character for love written in the upper corner of it. The whiskered masked man had yellow eyes and bright wild blonde hair that appeared reminiscent of the 4th Hokage from the monument that towered high above Konoha. The love-marked masked man had short, spiky red hair and carried a large, oversized red gourd on his back. The men were only slightly shorter than average adult height that suggested they still had not yet grown to their full length yet. The 2 made their way gates of Konoha that was guarded by 2 men. State your name and purpose please, the guard immediately asked. I'm Tenma and he's Akuma, the blonde man said, taking out his passport. We are from the Tsukigakure. We're here to take the Junin exam. The guards glanced at the passports before nodding and stepping aside. The 2 walked into the village. Konoha. The blonde-haired man whispered in a whimsical tone. The redhead looked over at his companion. Naruto. Naruto shook his head to himself. Don't worry about me, Gaara, I'm fine. It just feels weird coming back after so long. Both spoke in very low tones so that only they could hear each other's words. Gaara nodded, then looked around. Where's your shadow? He shrugged. Scoping out the area I think. I told him to search for possible places where they might be keeping them. I see. They continued to walk in silence for a moment until Naruto spoke up suddenly. Hey, let's go get some ramen. Ramen. Yup, ramen. We have an hour to kill and we can let my shadow do most of the information gathering. Gaara simply shook his head but followed Naruto to a nearby ramen stand. Welcome. The man behind the counter greeted them as they sat down on the stools. What would you like to order for today? Beef ramen please, Naruto answered. Same, Gaara said. Gotcha. Coming right up. They received orders rather quickly and began eating. They managed to eat with their masks on by tilting them up slightly and slipping the food underneath. Welcome. What can I get you 3 for today? Gaara and Naruto continued to eat silence as the other customers came and sat up at the counter beside them. "Give us 3 super-sized special ramen," Choji shouted. "Today's a special occasion because our buddy here's taking the Junin exam." "Hey, don't order for me. I have to stay on a strict diet, you know," Ino said. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. "Geez, what for? You look fine if you ask me." Ino blushed slightly. "Really? Yeah, a little baby fat never hurt anyone, oh ow." Shikamaru rubbed the back of his head. "What did you hit me for?" Ino glared. "You know why, you jerk." Shikamaru crossed his arms. HMPH. So troublesome. "Man, can't you two get a room?" Choji cut in. What?" both said in surprise. Choji smirked. "At least wait until after Shikamaru becomes Junin and then you two can celebrate." "I don't know what you're talking about, Choji." Ino angrily protested. "Why yeah," Shikamaru agreed. "Anyways, I don't see what the big deal is. I don't know why they had to force me to take this troublesome exam." "Well, you were supposed to take it last time, you dummy," Ino told him. "Yeah," Choji agreed. "These only happen once every year, you know." HMPH. "By the way, who's your partner?" Ino wondered curiously. "Everyone has to be in teams of 2 for this year's Junin exam, right?" Shikamaru nodded, but looked annoyed. "Yeah, it's bad enough that I have to take part in the Junin exam in the first place, but now I gotta be stuck with someone the whole time?" "Great. I don't think that's a bad thing, Shikamaru. You could just let your partner do all the work," Choji said with a grin. HMPH, not my style. "So who is he?" Ino asked again. "The Hyuga." Ino raised an eyebrow. "Hinata?" "No. Hinata's with Kiba, not surprisingly. My partner is Neji." EHH. "He's still a Chunin?" Choji said, surprised. "Yeah, for one reason or another." "Come to think of it," Ino started with a thoughtful expression, "Shino's the only one of us from the old rookie Genin pack that's already a Junin, huh? Who would have thought? Isn't he in the Anbu?" "Yeah, he's—" Shikamaru froze in mid-sentence abruptly, his eyes going wide. His companions looked at him curiously. "What's the matter, Shikamaru?" Shikamaru didn't reply as he snapped his head to the empty seats beside them. "What the hell? I didn't even feel them move. How the hell did they vanish so quickly without me noticing?" he thought to himself. "It's like they were never there to begin with, like ghosts." Shikamaru? Shikamaru? Ino bonked the young man across the back of his head. "Ow, what did you do that for, woman?" Shikamaru said, glaring. "Because you were zoning out and ignoring us, you lazy bum," Ino replied, returning the glare. Shikamaru rubbed his head softly. "Geez. Troublesome girl," he muttered under his breath. "What was that?" "Nothing, nothing." Silently, the Chunin thought, who were those two? Naruto and Gaara walked up to the Junin exam building and could see 3 figures standing in front of the entrance. Naruto's eyes widened as recognition dawned on him. He felt his heart stop and his pulse increase. With each step, Naruto's blood began to boil within him. It was him. Naruto gritted his teeth and clenched his fist. "Naruto," Gaara said a low tone, "it is not yet time. Remember the plan. We're supposed to keep a low profile until the tournament." Slowly, Naruto's fist unclenched. "Ha, funny hearing that from you. Don't worry, I'll control myself. We'll be fighting sooner or later anyways." As they got closer, their conversation reached their ears. HMPH. "I don't see why I have to be stuck with this idiot," Sasuke muttered. "It's the only way I can assure that no one else defeats you but me, Sasuke-kun," Lee said enthusiastically. "Because we are eternal rivals." Sasuke rolled his eyes while their third companion giggled at them. "Well, good luck you two," Sakura told them. "I better get going now. Look at them. Those cheery, oblivious idiots. I should kill Sasuke right now, right here," Naruto thought to himself in anger. It looks like nothing changed at all in this secluded, happy-go-lucky village of ninja while I was away. It's no wonder I was so ignorant when I was living here. Naruto cleared his throat and said in a cold voice, "Excuse us." All 3 looked up surprised, having not even noticed the newcomer's presence. 2 figures dressed in dark cloaks and hunter nin face masks met their eyes. "Oh, sorry," Sakura said, stepping aside. Sasuke and Lee did likewise. As Naruto passed Sasuke, he met the Uchiha's eyes for a brief second, then broke contact. A sharp, powerful force suddenly pressed into Sasuke's chest, halting his breath, before it vanished soon after. "What was that?" Sasuke whispered, clutching his chest. His eyes were wavering with anxiety and his voice was shaky. Lee and Sakura shared a glance of confusion as they looked their friend. What was what, Sasuke-kun? Lee asked. You didn't feel it? Sasuke replied. Sakura looked at Sasuke with concern. Feel what? After a moment, Sasuke turned away and said, nothing, never mind. It was nothing. He turned his gaze toward the two figures entering the building with questions forming in his head. Who are they? And what was that incredible killer intent I just felt? He thought with a shudder. The shadow quietly crawled across the ceiling of the main administration office of Konoha, invisible to the naked eye as he was skillfully wrapped in a genjutsu. He passed over many Konoha ninjas but they all walked by, oblivious. The shadow cautiously avoided the high-risk areas, such as the Hokage's office and Junin gathering rooms. Carefully but quickly, he made his way to one room in particular where he could find the scrolls that he wanted. Peeking in, the shadow scanned the proximity and saw that no one was there. He dropped down from the ceiling without making a sound and started towards a row of filing cabinets. As he sifted through, one scroll caught the shadow's eye. He opened the scroll and began to read it. This is. Just outside the office, Anko was walking through the hallways with a bored look. It's so boring nowadays. I haven't been given a high-ranking mission in so long it seems like. She sighed to herself. I wouldn't even mind being the Junin examiner just for the change of pace. For a long while, the female Junin had gradually begun to feel as if something was missing in her life. I want to fight someone strong. I want to learn a new jutsu. I want to do something other than just sit around here all day, she thought in exasperation. What's happened to me? Years ago, when she was younger, she used to push herself in her daily training, physically and mentally. She had made it her goal to learn a new jutsu or new move every week. It was the feeling of accomplishment of learning something fresh that motivated her. Anko loved it. She loved how she could see herself constantly growing stronger every day. She loved fighting against stronger opponents with her new jutsus and the adrenaline of undergoing a difficult, life-or-death mission. People used to call her a genius ninja because of that attitude. They were amazed at the growth she displayed and her quick development. So what had changed? What had made her become just another ninja in the ranks of Konoha? She knew what it was. Orochimaru. After him, after seeing what power could do to a man, she became afraid of becoming like that. On that day of betrayal, she had lost her power-hungry attitude. Ouch! Anko felt a pain pulsing from her neck. She placed her hand over the cursed seal. The seal again. It's been acting up lately. I wonder why? Anko shrugged to herself. She'll get it checked out later. Walking up to the office room, her hand reached over to open the door but stopped right when she touched the handle. Wait! Something's not right here. The shadow finished slipping several useful documents he had discovered into his shirt and quietly closed the cabinet. The shadow's ear twitched. Whipping out a kunai in the blink of an eye, he took a step back hastily and parried the shuriken that was flying towards him. I don't know who you are, Anko began, but we at Konoha don't appreciate strangers looking into our personal files. She examined the man with a critical eye. His identity was completely concealed by the whiskered hunter nin face mask and solid black clothing. Give up right now or else, she demanded. You don't stand a chance against one of Konoha's best, Mitarashi Anko. Anko, smirking confidently, held up several kunai at the invader. If you do give up, I promise I'll let you hey. In the midst of Anko's speech, the man made a leap towards the window and smashed through it. Cursing to herself, she ran to the window and peered out it. The man had landed on a roof below, unharmed, and was currently attempting to escape at full speed. You won't get away, she shouted as she leapt out the window herself and started racing after him. Welcome to the Junin exams everybody. Guy enthusiastically shouted to everyone as he made his grandiose entrance. Guy, as Naruto could recall, was the former Junin sensei over Lee's team. Naruto doubted that the man would recognize he or Gaara. So far, there were only a few threats that warranted the young man's attention. As expected, the hometown of the exam had the strongest teams, which wasn't surprising. The hometown advantage meant a great deal and not many were willing to risk sending their elite ninja protégés into enemy territory. A lot could happen during the exams and losing Junin candidates was a serious loss to ninja villages. This was one of the ways that the Junin exam differed from the Chunin exam. Gaara and Naruto had arrived rather early, so they had a chance to see all of their potential opponents. Currently, only two teams truly stood out from the rest and could pose as possible obstacles for the two members of Akatsuki. Those teams were Sasuke, Lee and Neji Shikamaru. Part of their mission was to last until the second part of the exam without being identified. That meant that they could not use the full extent of their powers and would have to avoid familiar faces. Naruto glanced at the other teams. Total, there were only 16 teams of 2 attending. The teams were comprised of pairs from Aim, Iwa, Taki, Suna, and, of course, Konoha. Naruto's eyes slowly fell upon one team in particular. Hinata and Kiba. Would they be a threat, he wondered? Kiba had extensive knowledge of his fighting techniques and could possibly remember his scent. And as for Hinata, Naruto shook his head. No, they were not a threat. He was surprised they were even in the Junin exam in the first place, but he still doubted that they had become significantly stronger. They still appeared to be the same people that he remembered from before. Right now they seemed to be conversing about something. For whatever reason, Naruto gave into his curiosity and increased his hearing range. "Don't look so worried, Hinata," Kiba said, a confident smirk on his features. "We've both gotten a lot stronger. Both Kurenai-sensei and Shino think so too. These guys don't stand a chance." Hinata, looking towards the ground, shyly argued, But Neji-Nisan doesn't think so. And there's a lot of strong people entering this year's exam." HMPH. Forget what Neji said. Either he doesn't want you to get in the way or he doesn't want you to get hurt, but either way. Kiba slowed down and cast his gaze aside as he gathered the courage to speak his next words. Hinata looked at Kiba curiously. Coughing, he finished, "I'll be here to protect you." Hinata appeared surprised at the bold declaration before slowly forming a small, shy smile and nodding. Naruto turned his attention away. Not important to the mission. Despite himself, Naruto couldn't help but feel just a little jealous. "If anything happens to me, promise me that you'll find happiness." "It doesn't matter. It was better this way." Naruto peered at another team beside them. There was one other team that could pose a real problem. He glanced at Gaara. Although his companion appeared stoic as ever, Naruto knew better and knew what the young man was thinking of. "Gaara," Naruto started, lowering his voice so that only Gaara could hear. Because they wore masks, no one could see their mouths moving. "What?" Gaara replied gruffly. "The team from Suna. They are of no concern," came the immediate reply. Naruto eyed his companion closely. "Are you sure? They have no affiliation with Konoha, so it wouldn't matter if." "They are of no concern," he repeated. Naruto tried to refrain himself from shaking his head at Gaara. Naruto knew his companion hated it when he passed judgment on him, but still. They were his family, for better or worse. Family was something Naruto had no concept of, having no blood-related relatives himself. Though he knew that Gaara was never on the best of terms with his brother and sister, he also knew that they were all he had for the first 13 years of his life. That had to have meant something. To let Kankuro and Temari that he was alive was the least he could do. Naruto's attention focused back to Guy, who was explaining the Junin exam. "This Junin exam will consist of 2 parts. I will be guiding you all through the first half," Guy explained. "This part of the exam will test your speed and ability to execute a mission as quickly and efficiently as possible. Once the exam starts, which is as soon as I leave this room, it will be a race to a location that I will lead you to. At the very peak of that location there will numerous gems there. The gem you need to attain is an emerald gem. Each emerald will allow a team to pass. Only 1 gem per team is need." The contestants listened to all this attentively, already making plans on how to get the gems first or ambush other teams. "Once the emerald is attained, you must return to the location marked within Konoha immediately, because only the first 8 teams will pass, regardless of whether you have an emerald or not. There are no rules with the exception of no outside interference, which I and the Anbu will be monitoring and making sure of." There were numerous murmurings among the contestants before Guy raised his hand for another announcement. "2 more things," Guy started slowly, a large grin appearing on his face. "Once those 8 teams have arrived, the second half of the exam will begin immediately." At this, many of the teams gasped in surprise. An expedition for several days against near Junin-level ninjas with no downtime in between. "Oh oi, that's too unreasonable," one of the AIM ninjas said. "For one, You Konoha ninjas will have an obvious advantage because you already know the area. Kankuro rolled his eyes and scoffed openly. Pathetic, quit whining. The AIM ninja turned to glare at Kankuro. What did you say? Guy interrupted them as he shook his head. The area where the exam will be taking place is off limits to all Konoha personnel that are Chunins and below. It is a training ground only for elite ninja because there are many dangerous traps and because it is on the outskirts of enemy territory. Guy's grin widened. Only the strong will survive, my young ninjas. And? Neji asked in a slightly tired tone. What was the second thing you mentioned? Guy's grin widened. Ah, I did mention that this was a race, didn't I? That means that I won't be waiting around. For you to catch up to me, that is. In the blink of an eye, Guy vanished. What? Some of the contestants gasped. Where did he go? Damn, let's go before we lose him. The Chunins quickly vacated the room soon after Guy. Naruto and Gaara already left soon after Guy, as did many of the more intelligent ninjas did, but this particular pair was in no hurry to catch up. He doesn't actually expect us to keep up with him, Naruto thought. I'm pretty sure that the only ones that even chance in keeping pace with Guy is Lee and him. This is more to test our tracking abilities. Oi! Naruto looked over to his companion. What? Your shadow? Where is he? Gaara asked. Naruto blinked. You're right, he's not following us. He closed his eyes for a second, then opened them. Something's happened. I can't sense him, he's too far away. The exam has already begun. I know. Naruto thought to himself momentarily. It can't be helped. He knows what to do if things get messy. Come on, let's hurry up. Damn it, Anko cursed to herself. The chase between her and the unknown ninja was being drawn out far too long. They were already out of the village. She needed to stop him quick before he ran back to any allies he had. Taking out an explosive seal, she quickly wrapped it around a kunai and launched it towards the unknown ninja. The kunai impaled a tree ahead of him and exploded in a flash of fire a second later. The kunai was well placed, for the ninja was shoved through air by the explosion and sent crashing into a tree. That's far enough, Anko shouted. The shadow quickly flipped to his feet and got into a defensive stance. Taking a moment to access the situation, he glanced from her to the space around her for escape routes but found none. Anko and the spy stared at each other for a long moment, neither moving an inch or saying anything. The spy's finger twitched ever so slightly, but Anko caught the movement instantly and decided at that moment to make her move. Sene Jashu, Anko shouted as she thrust her arms forward, unleashing a volley of hidden snakes that sprung from her sleeves. The snakes raced towards the spy at such an amazing speed that he was caught by surprise and could not guard against them. Sinking their teeth into his skin, they latched on both his wrists and ankles in crocodile-like vices. Anko pulled the spy towards her using the snakes, then freed one of her arms of the snakes to grab hold of a kunai. The shadow could not stop the momentum of the pull as he flew towards Anko headfirst, who had the kunai ready to impale him. Anko made a stab at his chest, but the ninja snatched the wrist in midair before it could reach him. He then put his other hand on her shoulder and used her as a base to make a complete flip over her. While in midair, the spy took out a kunai of his own and sliced off the other snake's vices from his body. The shadow quickly went on the counterattack, launching several shurikens at Anko, but she easily deflected the throwing stars with her weapon. She charged forward and started preparing a jutsu with hand signs. However, the shadow already had another jutsu prepped up. Kaden. Gokakyu no jutsu. Cupping his hand around his mouth, he puffed out a large sphere of flames at Anko. Futon. Senpu Toshin no jutsu. The shadow was once again caught off guard as Anko burst through the fireball with her arms out in front and spinning inside a violent wind that dispersed the flames. She closed the distance quickly and slashed at the spy's face. He almost pulled his head back in time, but she just managed to slit the cheek of his mask. Anko followed through her spin and executed a roundhouse kick that completely connected with the shadow's face. The kick sent him flying into the air and smashed him into the trunk of a tree. Anko took advantage of the opposing ninja's disorientation to prepare another jutsu. Carrying a small stack of explosive seals in her palm, she held it in front of her face. She shouted, "Futon, Daitopa." A gigantic blast of wind launched at the shadow, carrying the seals with it. He brought his arms up to block the jutsu, but the powerful force completely knocked him off his feet. He was sent flying and shattered the tree that was behind him. The seals exploded a moment later, burying him in the flames. Anko stared at the rumble where the ninja was, ready to attack if he had survived her jutsu. I didn't hold back on him at all. He shouldn't be able to stand after all that, Anko thought. Eventually the shadow slowly pulled himself out of the rumble, albeit beaten, burned, and cut up. His mask had shattered and revealed the face of a blue-eyed man with blonde spiky hair. The average female would say that it would be an understatement to call this man only good-looking. In contrast to his dashing handsome young face, however, were the cold, hardened eyes of a deadly predator. That is what Anko thought as she took in his appearance. There was also one other thing about the man that she couldn't quite put her finger on. He looked almost familiar. Who are you? What village are you from? Anko demanded of the man. The man didn't answer immediately as he dusted himself off. He wiped a line of blood from his lip. No one, just a ghost, he said in an emotionless monotone. Anko scoffed. Typical shinobi answer. I'll make you tell me before I kill you. The shadow shook his head. The real fight's about to begin. Anko couldn't help but smirk. Who was this guy kidding? She had pretty much wiped the floor with him in round 1. Real fight huh? You mean that wasn't all you had? The man narrowed his eyes for a moment until a small smile suddenly lit up onto his features. You caught me off guard. You fight so much like Orochimaru it's disgusting. Anko's eyes widened and dropped her stance slightly. What? Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. Before Anko knew it, a stream of fire was racing at her, leaving her with little time to do anything besides curse out, shit. A green blur blazed through the forest with an insane amount of speed. To the naked eye it would seem as if a sudden hurricane had struck the forest. Guy glanced behind him as he sped to the first exam point. As I expected. Only those two can keep up with me. I can sense them, just barely. Grinning, he thought, that's my Lee. Naruto looked ahead, tracing any signs of Guy or other teams with his senses while he and Gaara leapt from branch to branch across the forest. Looks like there's 2. No, 3 teams ahead of us, he thought. He glanced behind him. We're not going that fast, so there's probably 2 more teams that are nearby somewhere as well. Once we get the emeralds, we should be able to go full speed after that. Naruto halted suddenly, with Gaara following suit, and narrowed his eyes at the trail behind them. After sharing a look with Gaara and exchanging a few hand signs, they both nodded. A spiral of red sand swirled around Gaara and he seemingly vanished into thin air. Forming a seal, Naruto said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In a puff of smoke, a Gaara clone appeared. Naruto and the clone stood out in the open and waited. After a while, Naruto shouted out, we know you're there. There's no point in hiding any longer. Silence met his call. We've let you follow us for long enough, Naruto stated. Naruto waited. Nothing immediately happened after calling out the ninjas. Thinking back to the Chunin exam, had he been in the same situation, the ninjas there would have immediately came out and rushed him foolishly. Unfortunately, it didn't seem these opponents were that weak. Then not a second after that thought, a volley of daggers and shuriken burst forth at Naruto and the Gaara clone from the trees above him. Both of them easily sidestepped, having sensed the attack long before the weapons reached them. However, immediately after doing so, 2 throwing stars with wire attached to them shot out from behind. The stars curved around them in a long arc before whipping around and entrapping them tightly together in the wire. Naruto and the clone made no visible signs of struggle and simply stood there. Their 2 attackers finally revealed themselves and leapt out from hiding. One was holding the wire while the other out in front held up a pair of knives ready to finish the job. Both wore the symbol of the Omegacure on their forehead protectors. The attackers offered no arrogant expressions or words and only looked at them with a cool stare as they closed in on them. This is the end, the one holding the knives stated. Naruto shook his head from behind the mask. No. He raised an eyebrow. No? Goodbye, Naruto said calmly. Before the rain ninjas could say anything, 2 gigantic red hands of sand sprung forth from beneath and completely engulfed them. The red sand was a special type of sand that was not only stronger than normal sand but faster as well. The hands held them up in the air in a death grip, nearly crushing their bones. Where? One of the rain ninjas managed to mutter out. Naruto dismissed his clone as the real Gaara slowly appeared from the ground that had melted into sand. He stared at his captives for a moment, deciding something, then raised his hand up into the air and said as he closed his hand into a fist, "Sabaku Shoshin." Both men shuddered violently, their eyes rolling up into the heads, then dropped lifelessly. Gaara let hands of sand disperse and the limp bodies fell to the ground. That technique almost looked like. A whisper came from the bushes. Normally, no one but the speak would have heard it, but Naruto's keen ears did. "Come out right now," Naruto shouted suddenly, surprising Gaara. Gaara looked in the direction that Naruto was speaking to. "If you try to run, I will kill you." A female figure came into view. Hesitantly, she approached Gaara, who caught himself taking a startled step backwards. "G Gaara?" Temari asked cautiously. She took another step closer to him. You're Gaara, aren't you?" Gaara didn't answer immediately. "No." He started past Temari without looking her way. A hand latched onto his cloak, stopping him. "I know it's you," Temari said, her voice slowly sounding more assured of herself. Though he was mostly covered by his cloak and mask, he still had his signature features that she recognized, the character written onto his mask and his large gourd of sand, though now painted a blood red. His red hair was still short, though he had grown physically since she had last seen him. While not towering over her, he was no longer a head shorter than her and was now a good inch taller. "Where have been in the past 3 years? What did Akatsuki do with you? And why didn't you contact us and tell us you were alive?" The words came out half jumbled as she was frantically asking all the questions at once. Gaara said nothing as he did not know how to reply. Temari stepped in front of Gaara and, slowly, raised her hand towards his face. Gaara didn't move as she removed the mask. Gaara's face looked like just how she expected it would. He appeared pretty much same, only older. But there was something more than that. There seemed to be something different in Gaara's eyes that differed drastically from the old Gaara. Temari knew what it was. It was that cold bloodlust he had constantly harbored. The look that made you afraid of looking at him the wrong way or face his wrath. That look, that psychotic fierceness, was nowhere to be seen in her younger brother's eyes. Though the physical mask was off, Gaara still had a cold, stoic expression on his features. He still seemed unsure of what to make of all this. As Temari was gathering her thoughts, deep, buried emotions caused Gaara to speak out first. "And? What is it you want now that you know it is me?" His chilling tone in which he spoke surprised even himself. However, he could not forget his past nor his old feelings that were beginning to surface. What? Why do you care about where I have been in the past 3 years? Gaara asked. Since when did it matter to you whether I lived or died? Oh, of course it matters, and why shouldn't I care? You're my younger brother. Family. Temari said, angry at the accusation. Gaara scoffed in disgust. Family? That word means nothing to me. It was family that put a demon inside of me. It was family that tried to kill me as a child while pretending to care for me. It was family that ignored and ran away from me when I wanted to be with them. Gaara became angrier with each passing word. He clenched his fist tightly. We couldn't help it. Temari defended. You were always glaring at us like you were going to murder us. And you know how out of control your power was as a child. That's because that was the only way I could get you to pay attention to me. It wasn't until I used force did family finally look at me, even if it was with fear in their eyes. At the last statement, his force lowered to only a quiet murmur. Temari could no longer find the words to defend herself. Her knees collapsed from beneath her and she fell to the ground with a soft sob. I'm sorry, Gaara shouted. Do you think that will? Gaara felt a hand on his shoulder. Looking beside him, he saw Naruto, unmasked, who had been quietly watching the scene unfold. The young man stepped in front of Gaara. That's enough, isn't it? Naruto asked softly while glancing at the girl crying to herself on the ground. As Gaara stared at Temari, he felt a slight piercing in his chest but quickly ignored it. Stay out of this. He stopped in mid-sentence as he was taken by surprise when Naruto pressed his forehead softly against his. Family isn't always bad, is it? Naruto asked, his eyes closed. After all, me and you, we're family, aren't we? His eyes opened and a small smile crossed his face. Brothers, ever since that time, remember? The anger gradually drained from Gaara's eyes as he nodded. I remember. Naruto lifted his forehead and moved beside him. There had to be some good times with your family, right? Even if there weren't that many. Gaara's eyes moved to the ground and recalled the past. I remember when I was younger, Tamari used to watch me when she thought I was asleep. Tamari pulled her head up in surprise. I could never truly sleep back then because of Shukaku. Some part of me was always conscious, Gaara stated. At first, I thought it was because she was thinking about killing me in my sleep, but one time, I remember I was having a nightmare. It was a bad nightmare and I must have been crying in my sleep. That's when I felt someone take me in their arms and cradle me gently. Whenever I had those nightmares, that person always seemed to be there to comfort and calm me. Make them go away. Make the demons go away, a boy cried. Shush, it's all right. I won't let them hurt you. It's all right now. Gaara finally looked up from the ground to Tamari. That was you, wasn't it? Tamari cast her gaze away, her cheeks colored with a light blush, and nodded. You always looked so harmless in your sleep. I could forget that you had a tailed beast inside you. She stood up and looked at Gaara hesitantly. Gaara, I'm sorry. I know that change won't change the past, but I hope you'll forgive me. I forgive you. Tamari smiled and without a second thought she wrapped her arms around him in a fierce hug. Thank you. Gaara stood there, accepting the embrace, but speechless and confused as he had no idea of what to say or do in such a situation. Cautiously at first, his arms came up to wrap themselves around Tamari, returning the hug. A small smile crept up onto Gaara's face. This feels good, he thought. Abruptly, he blinked in surprise as he felt a wetness slide down his cheeks. I'm crying? Why am I crying? Because you're happy, Gaara, Naruto said, smiling. Oh, I see. And that was all that was said for a long while. After a comfortable silence, Gaara and Tamari released each other. Tamari was the first to speak up again. What happened to you after you were kidnapped? What did Akatsuki do to you? They trained me. They taught me how to control my powers and become stronger. I have been with them for the past 3 years now, Gaara said. Though I was at first with them against my will, I am now a part of them of my own free will. I have no regrets. Gaara stared at Tamari in the eye. Tamari, I have no intention of going back to Suna. I see. Tamari looked down for a moment before raising her head with small shake. It doesn't matter. You're alive. Her gaze then changed to Naruto with a curious, slightly cautious expression. Who is he? Tamari took the time to fully analyze the stranger before her for the first time. Her attention had been so focused on Gaara that she had almost forgotten about his presence. The man was handsome, there was no doubting that, but that wasn't what she was looking at. What garnered her attention were his sharp, long nails, which she found odd, and particularly the whisker-like markings on his cheeks. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but the markings reminded her of someone. There was also one other thing, his eyes. They were bright yellow with slitted pupils, like an animal. They were almost frightening. When she had first been discovered by the man, she caught a glimpse of his eyes through his mask. The fear she felt then was similar to the fear that surfaced when she looked into the eyes of Gaara when he loses control of his power. The sensation of being pierced by a predator's eyes right before he devoured you. However, as she peered deeper into the man's eyes, she could tell that they were now different, as if she was no longer deemed a threat by him. There was no bloodlust in eyes. Only the hint of a dull sadness remained. You're staring, Naruto stated. Tamari blinked and flushed slightly as she turned away her eyes. Sorry. I believe you met him before during the Chunin exams, Gaara said. His name is Naruto. He fought with me when we attacked Konoha. Tamari's eyes widened. You're that kid? Now that she knew who he was. It was true that he resembled the hyperactive boy from so long ago. Naruto nodded in acknowledgement. Geez, I can't believe that brat turned out like this. She thought in shock. He looks so, Tamari shook her head furiously, an embarrassed expression on her face. Looks aside, I'm surprised he turned out to be so reserved. I wonder what happened to him, she thought. Out loud, she asked, why is he with you? Like me, he was also kidnapped by Akatsuki 3 years ago, Gaara began explaining. He is now my partner in this mission. This mission? Tamari asked, eyebrow raised. Why are you here at the Junin exam anyways? What exactly are you two doing here? Gaara and Naruto exchanged glances. Both appeared to be thinking rather seriously until Naruto shook his head with a small, helpless smile. I'll go with whatever you decide, Gaara. Gaara closed his eyes, smiled slightly, and nodded. Tamari looked back and forth between the two, confused. I feel like I'm missing something here. What exactly happened between these two during those 3 years? The Gaara I knew wouldn't have acted this friendly towards anyone, including myself and Kankuro. Gaara's expression became serious as he turned back to Temari and said in a stern tone, "Temari, you and Kankuro must leave the Konoha vicinity immediately." "What? Why?" "Because, you are in danger. I can't go into further detail." "And so you expect me and Kankuro to abandon the exams just like that? With no explanation?" Gaara nodded. "Yes, it's for the best." Her eyes shot open. "You must be joking," Temari said in an outburst. "For one, we'd be a disgrace to everyone in Suna if we just got up and left. It doesn't matter because the exam is going to be cancelled." Again, Temari looked confused. "What? By who?" "By us." Temari's eyes widened. What? You can't be serious. "There are bigger things happening here than you and me, Temari," Gaara said. "You will be danger if you stay here." Temari narrowed her eyes. "I can take care of myself. I am one of the representatives for Suna after all. They did not choose me for nothing. Besides, I'm not going to leave you, not after just finding out you're alive." "No, you must leave. It's too dangerous," Gaara said, not budging. "I am a ninja, damn it." Temari shouted angrily. "I won't let you throw me away like this." Temari glared at Gaara. Gaara glared back and prepared a retort. He was surprised at how much resistance Temari was displaying even if he was being a bit forceful. He had been so used to having Temari and Kankuro follow his every word without a single word of disobedience before. He had expected it to be same. Inwardly, Temari herself was also surprised. It seemed so much more easier to think of this new Gaara as simply her younger brother, rather than a boy containing a demon. She had no idea what it was or why she had lost that fear of him. Perhaps it was because she had not seen him for over 3 years and that her feelings about him had changed over time. She had thought she lost him once and she wouldn't risk losing him again. Naruto stepped in between the two and held up his hands. Calm down, calm down. How about we let Temari and Kankuro accompany us? That way we can protect. I don't need anyone to protect me, Temari immediately cut in. Watch over them, Naruto finished. No, Gaara replied. Naruto sighed. If Temari wants to stay here, there's not much we can do about it anyways. Where is Kankuro, Temari? Naruto asked her. Temari thought for a moment. Well, we said that we would meet around over there, she said, pointing southeast. Since we had lost the trail, we had been following the tracks of 2 other teams but they went in different directions a little while back. About 30 minutes ago I think. Naruto looked off in the southeast direction before turning to his partner. Gaara, take Temari and get Kankuro. Southeast is the direction opposite of where the exam is. We don't have time to go and come back to get an emerald without risking being passed by too many teams. I will go and pick both us up 2 emeralds. We'll meet back at the dead trees, right before the bridge, south of here, on the west side. If any team possesses an emerald, they must pass through that point because that's the quickest route back. Although she was surprised that Naruto had come up with a plan so quickly, she said, that plan is ridiculous. Do you really think you'll be able to just waltz in there and take the emeralds without being killed by the other teams? Yes, I don't like relying on you, Temari said blatantly. Why don't you just come with us, then we'll go get the gems together. It can't take that long. At least, not enough for the other teams to pass us. Naruto shook his head. Before the fight with the AIM ninja, there were 3 teams ahead of us. I'm sure that at least 3 other teams have passed us since then. What, that many already? Yeah. Naruto turned away from them in the direction of the emeralds. I move faster alone anyways. I'll be back. He was about to leave but he paused abruptly. He stood, contemplating something for a moment, before he said one last thing. Though I doubt this will happen, Naruto began, his back facing them, as a last resort, if 5 teams have already passed, and I'm still not back yet, then just stop the other teams and take their emerald. I'll meet back with you guys at Konoha. And with that, he vanished. Will he really be able to do it? Temari asked after a moment. He will. I have no doubts. But then why did he say the last part? If he doesn't get back in time? Temari asked. Gaara stared off into Naruto's direction. I have a feeling that is because if he meets a certain person out there, he will go out of his way to kill him. Gaara added a thought to himself, although that's not supposed to be part of the plan. Naruto, I hope you know what you're doing. 2 ninjas, bruised and bloodied, glared at each other from a distance while they both took in haggard breaths of exhaustion. Both were still in fighting stances, kunai in hand. The two enemies grinned at each other simultaneously. From the looks on their faces, it seemed as if they were enjoying their brutal fight to the death. In a way, they were, both on their own terms. However, the fight was beginning to stretch out dangerously long and they knew it would have to end soon. In appearance, they both seemed to be equally battered with numerous cuts and burns scattered throughout their figures. But, they both thought. Anko grinned. The shadow frowned. I need to do something soon. I'm running low on chakra and I can tell she still has a lot more left than me. I never thought I'd have to resort to using it. I had no idea that she was this strong. Anko broke the silence. As fun as this is, I'm going to have to end it soon. Last chance to give up. She received no answer. Fine then. Let's finish this.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.